Day, Yudalad Mar Cheshvan, and we are learning Maseches Pesachim, Daf Nun Hey Amud Beis, and we left off at the bottom of Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph, a few lines from the bottom. The Gemara is discussing the din of the Mishnah about doing malacha on erev Pesachim, Erev Pesachim. And the Gemara is trying to figure out the context of the Mishnah. Is the Mishnah talking about malachas that you need to do, that you don't need to do for Yantav? Is the Mishnah talking about big malachas and small malachas? What exactly is the context of the Mishnah? And we saw different options in the first few lines of the Gemara there. We are 6 lines up from the bottom of the Amud on Nun Hey Amud Aleph, where the Gemara says, Tashma, let's listen up. You cannot begin making something, doing malacha on the 14th of Nisan. I feel it's tziltzul cotton, even a small belt. I feel shivach ktana, even a small covering, like a doily. My afilu, what is the afilu within the Mishnah? Says the Gemara, lav afilu hani letzarech hamayid. Doesn't it mean even if it is letzarech hamayid, even if it is for the purposes of Yantav? Says the Gemara, migmar in achulilai. Does that mean migmar in achulilai, that you can finish, but you're not allowed to begin? It would come out, according to the way that we are reading this brisa, that even if it was for a even if it, sorry, that if you don't need it for Yantav, migmar nami lo gamrin, you wouldn't be able to finish the malacha that you started. That is the option that the Gemara is floating at the moment, meaning that the afilu in the brisa is teaching you afilu, if it's letzarech hamayid, you would not be able to begin it, but if it's not letzarech hamayid, you wouldn't be able to finish it. Says the Gemara, no, la'olam d'shelo letzarech. What we are talking about in this brisa is a case of lo letzarech, where you don't need to finish it. Migmar nami gamrin, and you would also be allowed to complete something that you had already started. Umay afilu, so what's the and even afilu hani nami de zutrininu, even these things which are very small, it's not a big job, it's just a little bit of stitching, a little bit of cutting, make the belt crochet a doily. It says the salke daitach amin, because you would have thought at chalasan zay gmar malachta, that starting is finishing. It's a very quick job. The same amount of time that it takes you to finish a big job, it would take you to start and finish this small job. Says the Gemara, naschil behu nami lechatchila. You would have thought that that the din would be that you would be allowed to be maschil even lechatchila and shalol letzarech hamayid. Says the Gemara kamash malan, that this price is teaching us that is not the case. If it is not letzarech hamayid, even if it would be something very small, you would not be able to begin it. Says the Gemara, Tashma, listen up. We are at the bottom of Nun Hey Amud Aleph, at the very last line of the page. Tashma, Reb Meir tells us, Kol malacha shel tzarech hamayid, any malacha which is for Yantif needs, Goimra be'arba asar. You finish it on the 14th day of Nisan, meaning you finish it on Erev Pesach. When exactly are we talking about here? So we said the 14th of Nisan, but there are different time zones within the 14th of Nisan. Says the Gemara, Emasai, Bisman shehischil ba kodim abasa. Ostensibly, it would mean if you began it already before the 14th of Nisan. Meaning you started this a day early, you started this a week early, it was a big project, now you're finishing it up on Erev Pesach. But if you are not beginning it until the morning of the 14th, you're not allowed to start a project on the 14th. I feel it's still cotton, even if it is a small belt. I feel even if it's a small covering. Letzarech hamayid in And what do we see from this? That letzarech hamayid, in that if you need this for yantiv purposes, it would be permissible. Shaloi letzarech hamayid, like it would not be permissible for non-yantiv purposes. That is the understanding that the Gemara has within the brisa here of Reb Meir. Says the Gemara, and it sounds like the differentiation here is not about the size of the project, but whether it is for the tzarech hamayid or not for the tzarech hamayid, whether you need it for yantiv. Says the Gemara, "Hu hadir no." It's the same halacha. That even if it is not for the purposes of yantiv, you would be allowed to finish it. And here what we're saying is that even if it is for the purpose of yantiv, migmar in lai, that you can finish a project, you cannot start a project. Meaning, Reb Meir's differentiation here is that if you started the project before the 14th and you need it for yantiv, you would be able to finish it. But also, if you started it before the 14th and you don't need it for yantiv purposes, you are still going to be allowed to finish it on Erev Pesach. Tashma, come in here. Reb Meir tells us as follows: Kol malacha shehi letzarech hamayid. This is how we're going to spell out Reb Meir's opinion. Any malacha that is for the purposes of yantiv, gomra ba'arba asar, you can finish on the 14th. She'eina letzarech hamayid, if it's not for yantiv purposes, asar, you are not allowed to do so. Va'osim malacha ba'arba Pesachim al chatzos, and you do malacha on Erev Pesach until chatzos, until midday, b'makom shenagu, in a place that they have the custom of doing so. Makom shenagu in, lo nagu lo. In places that they have the custom to do malacha, you are allowed to. And in places that they have the custom to not to do malacha, you are not allowed to. Lo nagu lo. Ushmami, now what do we hear from this? Letzarech hamayid, for the purposes of yantiv, in, you are allowed to. Shelo letzarech hamayid lo. And you are, and if it is not for the purpose of yantiv, you are not allowed to do so. Shmamina, that is a good and conclusive proof that is how we understand Reb Meir. Meaning, Reb Meir is telling us that regardless of when you started the project, if it is not l'tzarech hamayid, you are not allowed to finish it on Erev Pesach. The Chachamim say shalosh umanu yos, that there are three kinds of craft, three craftsmen that are allowed to do malacha on Erev Pesach, and this was the Mishnah at the bottom of Nun Hey Amud Aleph, where the Chachamim told us, ve'eluheim, these are they, the chayatin, the tailors, the hasafrim and the barbers, v'akovsim and the launderers. These three categories, they are allowed to do malacha on Erev Pesach. And now we're going to try and understand exactly why these three and what is and how this extends to when and for what. Tana, the Brisa says as follows: Hachayatin, with regards to tailors, shekein hedya tefer kedarka b'chol shemayid. The halacha is that a non-professional, a household tailor, somebody that is just sewing on a button, which once upon a time, everybody knew how to do that. When you used to go to hotels, you would get like the shampoo and like the little sewing kit there. I don't think that they do that anymore. Nobody knows how to sew buttons. But once upon a time, it was assumed everybody could sew a button. The halacha is that during Chol HaMoed, a regular person, not a tailor, just a regular average person is allowed to sew on a button on Chol HaMoed. Hasafrim v'akovsim, and with regards to the barbers and the launderers, shekain hababim medinas hayam v'yetzim beis asurim, somebody that came back from overseas, from an overseas journey, and somebody that came out of prison. The halacha is mesafrim v'chavsim v'chol HaMoed, they are allowed to do laundry and get a haircut on Chol HaMoed. The halacha is that you need to take care of your clothing and your grooming on Erev Yom Tov. You are not allowed to do so during Chol HaMoed. The Mishnah in Moed tells us, so that you don't enter into Yantiv looking disheveled. So the Chachamim asked from even if it was the Tzarech HaMoed, they asked you from getting a haircut and from doing laundry on Chol HaMoed in order to incentivize, to ensure that you did so before Yantiv started. Says the Brisa, we are one line down from the beginning of the wide lines. Rabbi Yosi b'Rabbi Yehuda tells us Af haratzanim, even shoemakers. Shoemakers are also allowed to be involved in malacha in this specific case. You can only regalim, because with regards to the people that are going up to Yerushalayim for the Shalosh Regalim, mitaknin minaleim b'chalosh shamayid, they are allowed to fix their shoes on Chol Hamoed. So, b'may kemifligi, what exactly is this argument about? My savar, one opinion holds that we can learn about the beginning of work from the end of work, meaning making shoes is asr, but repairing shoes is mutter. And Rabbi Yossi says if repairing shoes is mutter, then making shoes is mutter as well. Umar Savar, and one opinion holds that repairing shoes is mutter, but making shoes is asr. So these are the three malachas that one can do on Chol Hamoed. These are the three malachas that a person can do on Chol Hamoed, L'tzarech Hamoed, for those that need it. Now the Mishnah says as follows. Masnisid, Mishnah teaches us as follows. This is our next Mishnah, 5 lines down from where the lines get very wide. Mashivin shei vachin letarnagolim b'yamtiv. You can set up a chicken coop, meaning set up for the chickens to incubate the eggs on the 14th. Ve'tarnagolis shebarcha, and if a chicken ran away from its eggs, machzirin osa limkoma, you can return her back to her place, meaning you can go and chase her and put her back. V'im mesa, but if she died, mashivin achares tachta, you are allowed to put another chicken there in her place. Meaning this is all malachas that you might not be able to do. You certainly can't do on a Shabbos or a Yantif. But on the 14th of Nisan, says the Mishnah, you are allowed to do these things, and we're going to explain why. And this includes garvim mitachas ragle behema biyudalad. Sorry, you are allowed to be garv, to sweep the dung under from the animal's feet on the 14th of Nisan, on Erev Pesach. Uva Mayed, and on Yom Tov, Misalkin Letstadim, you are allowed to push the dung to the side. Now, this is muktzah, and we'll see exactly what the ramifications and the parameters are of this din. B'mayed Misalkin Letstadim, you can push the dung to the side. Molichin Kelim Umevin Mibesa Uman, you can bring utensils back to and from the house of the craftsman that made it. This is on Erev Pesach. Even if you don't need them for Pesach, you don't need them for Yantiv. Says the Gemara, Hashta Oisivim Vinon. The Mishnah told us that you can be Moshiv, you can set up the chickens to be incubating their eggs on Erev Pesach. So now the Mishnah tells you that you can go and return the chicken that ran away. You can return the hen that ran away. Of course you can. If you can set up the chickens to incubate the eggs on Erev Pesach, of course you can return a chicken that ran away. Amar Abaye says, Seifa asan l'chalosh shel moed. No, the end of this is not telling you about Yudalad. It's telling you about Chol Hamoed, that this would be a different category, that even on Chol Hamoed you'd be able to return the chicken to incubate her eggs. Amar Rav Huna teaches us, Loishan ela taich shloisha le mirda. This Mishnah is teaching us is this halacha that you can return the chicken to her roost, to her nest. This is only within 3 days of her rebellion. It's an interesting phrase of the Gemara. Mirda, after she runs away, meaning the chicken flees, and now the eggs are not incubated. And this is within 3 days of her running away. The akasi lo parach tzimra mine, her heat has not yet left her, meaning that she can still incubate. She still is the chicken that's that hen that's incubating her eggs is warmer, is much hotter within 3 days. But after 3 days, she's not going to be hot enough. It's not going to help. And after 3 days of her sitting on the eggs, after 3 days of sitting on the eggs, the eggs will be completely spoiled if she doesn't come back and sit on them. Meaning, So the din is that 3 days after she runs away, hold on one sec. 3 days after she runs away, she is still hot enough to continue incubating the eggs. And after 3 days of sitting on her eggs, the eggs will be completely spoiled. So within 3 days of her running away, or within the first 3 days of the eggs being laid. But after 3 days of her running away, that she's no longer warm enough, or within the first 3 days of sitting on them, that the eggs have not spoiled completely, you don't have to bring her back on Chol, meaning if you got another day until the end of Yantiv, go and get her 2 days later. So she runs away on the last day of Chol, so you can wait until after Yantiv to go and get her back. The eggs will not be spoiled. Rabbi Ami tells us, even within 3 days of her of the first days of the eggs, meaning 3 days after she lays her eggs, you can go and bring her back. So, what are they arguing about? Meaning, do you have the right to go get her back within 3 days, where the eggs are probably not going to spoil, or do you have to wait until after Yom Tov? Not do it on Chol Hamoed and wait until after Yom Tov. What is the argument? The opinion of Rabbi Ami is that we are concerned for the concern of the Tanna Kama is that we are concerned for hefsid meruba. We are concerned for significant loss. Hefsid mu'at lo chashashu, but we're not concerned about small losses to tell you to violate the halachas of Chol Hamoed. And the other opinion, the opinion of Rabbi Ami, is that Chazal were concerned about a hefsid mu'at, even losing a few eggs is also a significant enough loss to tell you that you can go and violate Chol Hamoed, to do malach on Chol Hamoed, to go and run after your hen and go get her back and put her back in the cage. The Mishnah told us that that you can scoop out the dung from under the legs of the behemoth, the feet of the animals, on the 14th of Nisan. Tana Rabban, the Brisa tells us as follows: Hazevel shebachatzer misalkin oisel tzdadim. The zevel, the dung that is in the chatzer, that is in the courtyard, misalkin oisel tzdadim, you can move it to the side. Shebarefes, that which is in a barn, v'shebe chatzer, and that which is in the courtyard, matzian oisel la'ashba, you can take out to the garbage pile. So the Gemara says, Haguf Kasha, that is internally contradictory. You said the dung that is in the chatzar, you push to the side. And then you said, and that which is in the barn and in the chatzar, you have the right not just to push to the side, you can take it all the way out to the dung heap, to the garbage pile. Amar Abaye says, no, this is not a problem. This is talking about Erev Pesach, and this is talking about on Chol Hamoed. On Chol Hamoed, we are more machmer, and you would not be able to take it out to the garbage. Rava says, no, the whole halacha is taught on Chol Hamoed. This is what the Mishnah is telling us. If the courtyard becomes like a barn, meaning it's packed with dung and you cannot move around in it, then you can take it out to the dung heap. You would not be obligated to walk through your courtyard with animal droppings all over the place. Meaning, if it looks like a barn, you would be able to take it out. You don't just you don't have to push it only to the side. Says the Gemara, quoting from the din of the Mishnah, Malichin kelim mibais uman, that you are allowed to bring kelim to and fro from the house of the craftsman, even if it is not l'tzarech hamoed, and that was said on Yud Dalad on Erev Pesach. Amar Papa says, Badiklon Rava tested us. He gave us a bechina. Tanan, the Mishnah teaches us that you can take kelim to and fro from the house of the craftsman, even if they are not needed for yantiv. But he asked us, the kasha was, he asked us a contradiction, that you're not allowed to bring kelim from the house of the craftsman, V'im chayshish lahem shema yignavu. And if you are worried that they're going to get stolen, mifanan lechatzer acheres, you can move them to another courtyard, meaning to someone else's courtyard, but not go schlep it from the house of the craftsman. If it would be a significant journey, meaning it would be a lot to do. And we answered him. He says, how could it be? You have one statement of the Tanakh, the Mishnah, that says that you are allowed to go and get the kelim from the base of Uman, and the other that said that you are not allowed to, unless you're worried that it's going to get stolen, and then you can put it in another courtyard that is better guarded. And we answered him like kasha. This is not a problem. That the one is a din on Erev Yantif. Erev Pesach, you are allowed to bring them home, and on Chol Hamoed, you are only allowed to move them if you are concerned that they're going to get stolen. Or alternatively, you can answer both of these dinim on Chol Hamoed like kasha, and there is no contradiction. Can be ma'amina, can be she'ena ma'amina. It depends on your relationship with the craftsman. If you trust him, so then you are not allowed to go and get them. Can be she'ena ma'amina. You don't trust him. You don't trust that he's going to take good care of your wares. Meaning, you trust him to make a kli, but you don't trust him to keep it there. Sometimes you have somebody that's a very expert craftsman. He's very good at making things, but he's not so good at locking up after him. But wasn't it taught in a Bryce that you're allowed to bring kelim from the house of the Uman, Kagoin Hakad Mibeis HaKadar, like a jug. Like a jug from the potter's house, and a cup from the glass blower. But you're not allowed to bring back wool from the dyer, and not kelim from the craftsman. And if he doesn't, the craftsman doesn't have anything to eat, you pay him. But you still leave your kli with him, meaning you say, I'll pay you now, meaning so that you have what to sustain yourself with, but you leave the kli with him. And if he doesn't trust him, then put it in somebody's house next door. And if you're worried about it being stolen, then you bring it home secretly, meaning you squirrel it away in your coat. You don't schlep it through the market. So how does that? And this is all talking about a Chol Hamoed. So how could it be that we're saying that both of these dinim are talking about a Chol Hamoed, that we seem to have a lot more loops and hoops to jump through in order to be able to bring it home at all? So Teratzta, so Rabbi said to us, Teratzta Mivin, you've explained Mivin Malichin, Mivin, that you've explained how this works with Mivin, that it makes sense that you'd be allowed to be mevi, to bring them back. There's ways of bringing it back. Molichin kasha. But how do you explain where the Mishnah says that you are molich, that you're allowed to take things to the craftsman's house? That's a kasha. Diktani, because we had said, ein mivin, you're not allowed to be mevi. And all the more so that you can't bring them to his house. So you say, this whole calculation is incorrect. It cannot be that both of these dinim are talking about on Chol Hamoed. It must be that the din of Malich and Mevin is talking about on Erev Pesach, and that's where there's a heter of Malich and Mevin. And all the questions of whether or not you trust him, you don't trust him, all of that is only talking about Chol Hamoed, and these are the two dinim of Hashem Yisbarach. We will continue with the next Mishnah. We'll continue with that tomorrow morning. Everybody should have a wonderful day after a long Amud. The next Amudim are also pretty long. And Hashem Yisbarach, we're almost towards the end of the parak. The parak is ending soon, and then we are going to get into the halachas of Korban Pesach. So get ready.